All right, Frank. Well, I appreciate you letting me sit down and ask you some questions.
Sure.
So, to begin with, what would you say your time was on the Western Maryland? Would you go back and do it again if you had the opportunity?
Yes, I would.
Now, would you say Western Maryland was a family company and they care about their employees?
That was the best part of the job. The people I worked with.
Uh huh. And what engines did you run back in the day?
Well, anywhere from the BL2s in the yard to I guess the newest thing was the Chessie SD50s.
So you were around when the Chessie SD50s came around.
Yeah.
Now, did you like running them things or did you hate them?
The 50s?
Yeah, the SD50s.
Oh, I just was amazed at how long they were. But yeah, I enjoyed all the stuff. Not so much the Conrail junk we got out of Harrisburg every now and then again, but it was mostly okay.
Now, when you say Conrail junk, was that because why did you say the Conrail was junk?
A lot of this stuff was just worn out, and they. I guess I was spoiled because the Western Maryland stuff was in very good shape and taken care of, and the railroads that went into Conrail just wore everything out.
Now, when you worked for the Western Maryland, where were you assigned out of, and where was the furthest you ran?
I usually, in engine service, worked out of Hagerstown, and to work out of Hagerstown, you had to qualify to Cumberland, Maryland, to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to York, Pennsylvania, and to Baltimore, Maryland. And at that time, the East Sub was only in as far as Westminster, Maryland.
Okay. And did you ever run down to Elkins at all?
No, I didn't.
So you weren't qualified for Elkins.
No, never west of Cumberland.
Okay, so you never qualified west of Cumberland.
Didn't have to, no.
Okay. So when you say qualify, what exactly was the process for qualifying?
Well, you had to know the physical characteristics of the railroad. You had to know the rules that were in effect. And if you were smart, you knew your union agreement.
Okay. And when the B&O took over the Western Maryland, some people say that due to the union laws at the time, they couldn't fire anyone at the time. Now, I had heard tell of a story where B&O tricked a young track gang ripping up their own track from Big Pool they started in Cumberland with a layover in Hancock, and by the time they got back to Hagerstown, they were fired.
Well, I never heard that story, but there was some stuff that went on, and it was all because the company forced a consolidation down south, and the B&O guys didn't like it, and the Western Maryland guys didn't like it. So you just had to make do with what you had.
So technically, neither one of them wanted to merge.
Well, it's tough to say. I was never in management, so I'm not privy to that information. But the guys were happy to stay on their home road. No, when I was in engineer school, we had an instructor that always picked on another Western Maryland guy and myself about being Western Maryland. And one day he got feisty and we got feisty back with him. And he said the only reason the B&O wanted the Western Maryland was for the edges and for the coal reserves. So I don't know if he was speaking out of turn or what, but that's kind of what happened.
Now, when the B&O merger happened, did you and the B&O guys get along, or you couldn't stand them?
Well, I tried to get along with everybody. I didn't have any problems with anybody, but you could tell with some people there was a friction, and that was both Western Maryland and B&O. You know, there were just guys that were, you know, dyed in the wool, and if they felt that someone was going against them, they were mad.
Now, when you say go against them, what do you mean by that?
Well, like for example, the consolidation of '79, they did away with our Baltimore pools, and we got equity on the B&O between Baltimore and Brunswick and Cumberland. And the B&O guys didn't like that, but the Western Maryland guys did like losing the Baltimore turn. So, you know.
So, what exactly do you mean by you lost your Baltimore pool? I'm not quite understanding on that one.
We had, at that time, there was 5 turns in the Baltimore pool, and their job was only between Hagerstown and Baltimore. We had 2 sides to the York Man and a couple of turns in the Harrisburg pool. But when in '79, they did away with through freight to Baltimore on the Western Maryland and transferred that all to run the B&O the whole way.
And when you ran in Baltimore, would you say it was different compared to what it is now, like in terms of safety and ethics and all of that?
Well, I don't know about now, but we always try to get the trains over the road, and I would say we had to closely abide by the rules, both the rule book and the safety rules, to get the job done and make the company happy.
So you really didn't care too much about the people. You were there to do your job, run trains. That's it.
Well, I was there to run trains, but like I say, the people I worked with was the best part of the job.
Well, I'm not sure if you know, but today Baltimore's not exactly the safest place.
No.
It's unfortunate, but it's not.
You know, we had occasionally trouble now and then, but you know, I guess it's not as bad as it is now.
Now, when you were on the Western Maryland, did you have any incidents where you felt like your life was in danger or you felt unsafe doing your job?
I would say no, because if there was an incident where something concerned you, you either talked it over with your crew or turned the problem into the safety committee, or even talk to management, like train master or road foreman.
So obviously we know the roundhouse is gone today. What was it like back then when you were working for the Western Maryland?
It was, all the stuff was back there. It was in bad shape when I first hired on. They were doing some minor work back there. Towards the end, the only thing they were doing would be something that couldn't be done to safely get the locomotive to Cumberland, like for example a traction motor or wheel set problem. But like I say, towards the end, even though there was a roundhouse foreman, the only thing they did was service the locomotives and make the engine consists up and be there to help us understand and get what engines we were supposed to have for a certain train.
And you were never really hired under the Western Maryland proper. You were hired under Chessie Western Maryland. Is that correct?
I hired in '78. I got a Western Maryland paycheck until '83, and then it became a B&O paycheck.
Okay.
So I
And-
do have Western Maryland seniority, but I guess it wasn't true Western Maryland at that time.
Uh-huh. And did you see a reduction in your pay grade, or was it about the same?
Oh, it was all the same because I think that was came under the union contract, and I know the Western Maryland the engineman had a little better contract because we got a few arbitraries that I don't think the B&O got.
Uh-huh.
So.
So what arbitraries would B&O get that Western Maryland never got?
Well, I don't know what they got, but we got like engine change when you set out or pick up an engine and things like that.
Okay. And how often did Western Maryland bring their engines in for maintenance? If you know the answer to that.
Well, the only thing I know for sure is the FRA requires a 92-day inspection, and I think the company has at least at that time, had a rebuild policy for 7 years.
Uh-huh. And so you're not really sure how often Western Maryland would bring their engines in for maintenance other than the 90-day inspection, which was required by the FRA at the time.
I would think most of the time at the completion of our tour duty, we had to fill out an engine report, and if there was a defect, we would denote that, and when it got turned in, the servicing guys would, if they could, take care of it. So I think a lot of times, and it was for all of the railroads that engines I ever had to work on, if they could fix it, they could. If they couldn't, it would go, like Chessie stuff would go to Cumberland, Continental stuff would go to Harrisburg, and I would like to think that the Western Maryland took care of little problems before they came big problems, but again, that's a little bit beyond my skill level.
Hey, that's okay. Now, did you ever run any of the famed Western Maryland F units?
I ran the 236 when I worked on the Maryland Midland for the 25th anniversary of the Historical Society.
Oh, so you ran 236 for the Historical Society event.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Was that like stepping back in time and enjoying the true times of the Western Maryland, or what?
Well, I enjoyed it, but F units you kind of have a love-hate relationship. You love to run, but you hate to work off them because there's no place to stand per se. You just have to hang on.
You just gotta hang on for dear life and hope you don't fall off. Now, did you ever work on? Sorry, not work. Excuse me. Did you ever run any of the Jeep 9s?
Oh yeah, many times.
Did you like them?
Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't say this, but I like EMD power better than GE, only because EMDs were more like the way I wanted to run a train. You had pretty much instantaneous response when you worked on the throttle, where where a GE would kind of take its old good time to do this stuff. But I will have to admit that GE's had a heck of a good dynamic brake.
So, did you ever have to start an engine up cold?
Oh yeah.
How many times do you have to do that?
Oh,
More
man.
times than you can count?
Yeah.
Now, was it hard starting up a cold engine, or was it?
The only thing would be if you had bad batteries, would make it difficult or impossible. But yeah,
Now, when you say batteries, what exactly do you mean?
the batteries that provided power to the starter, they were just like a battery on a car, only many times bigger.
And I'm sure that. Did you ever have to, quote unquote, jump start an engine?
Yeah, oh yeah. We had to run welding cables from a engine that was running out that window into our window and hook them to the light switch in the electrical cabinet. But
And-
that was the jump start, I guess.
And did you ever run in any of the renowned Western Maryland Alco FAs?
No, they were all gone.
So they were gone by the
yeah.
time you came around.
Yeah.
So pretty much all the Alcos were gone.
Yes.
So you never really got to experience any of the RS3s or any of that.
The last 4 was in Cumberland when I first hired as a brakeman, and I looked at them and crawled through them, but I never had the opportunity to run one.
Do you remember what they were? Were they switchers? Or were they?
Oh, the last 4 RS3s.
Oh, so they were RS3s.
Mm-hmm.
So then one of them was likely 195 because that's the last one sitting in Baltimore.
It was, yes.
Wow, that must have been a sight. Wow. And was Ridgely torn up then yet?
No. Ridgely was and Knobmount was both used as a car storage yard, and that was before the Allegheny Central or the Maryland Snake.
And pardon me, I'm trying to think of more questions to ask you.
Sure.
So, not many people know this, but as you and I both know, originally was split into two parts. There was the car yards, and then there was the engine shop lead. Was there a big roundhouse in Ridgely, or just a small one?
When I was there was no roundhouse, just the engine shops.
Just the engine shops and the car shops?
Yeah.
Now, did you ever go to Maryland Junction?
Yes, I did, but it was just a look at the track, and that was about it. It was in rough shape when I first saw it.
Now, why was it in rough shape? Was that the fault of the B&O, or was that the?
Oh, it was that would have been probably 1980, and the Western Mountain was done as a through route, and at that time the yards were just filled with junk storage cars.
Did you see any Western Maryland locomotives get scrapped?
No.
No. So thankfully you were not witness to that unfortunate piece of history.
I would think that there was a lot of stuff traded in, but I didn't see where it went.
Did you ever run on any of the GP35s Western Maryland had?
Yes, sir.
And how'd you like them? How'd they handle? Like any other EMD?
Yeah.
So pretty much all EMD handled the same.
The 30s and 35s were a little slippery, only because they were they had so many stages of transition. So, but above and beyond that, if you knew what you were doing, you didn't have any problem.
Uh-huh. And what was the remains of the roundhouse looking like? You said it was in rough shape.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that was like?
The roundhouse was okay, but the back shops and everything, there were holes in the roof, and the floor was raised up because of water. There was still a lot of big machinery in there, but I don't know whatever happened to that. It could have been used at for some steam shop somewhere, or if there had been enough money, Hagerstown could have been a steam shop, but we all know what happened there. So
Yeah, but I think you'll be delighted to know that the engine shops still stand, but the roundhouse just is completely gone.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we know the roundhouse is gone. That's very well documented, and it's definitely on YouTube. Now, did you ever ride any Norfolk and Western trains, or?
Well, we had run-through power every once in a great while between Hagerstown and Cumberland, and yeah, I ran a few. We would occasionally borrow NW power for Williamsport Helper, but yeah, a little bit.
Now, I know that Williamsport Hill was obviously the biggest raid in Western Maryland. How hard was that for you to make that hill?
Well, we had pretty much all river grade until the last few miles into Hagerstown, so they could run with very little power between Cumberland and Williamsport, but it required, when they were running tonnage trains, they were just didn't have enough power to run the hill single, so henceforth the Williamsport Helper.
Now, do you happen to know the percentage of the grade at Williamsport?
It's a little over 1%, but I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Would you say roughly 3%, maybe?
Oh no, it's not that much. I don't even think it's 2%. It's one something, but I'm not sure exactly what.
So probably like maybe 1.2, 1.5, perhaps somewhere in that range.
I don't know for sure.
Now, did you ever get to Connellsville?
No.
You never went to Connellsville?
No.
Okay, so you were mainly in the pool of Hagerstown, Cumberland, and
Harrisburg, Baltimore, York.
Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was York like back in the day? I've never been up there.
Well, we ran on the B&H, the east up to Highfield, the B&H to Porter's, which is just east of Hanover, and instead of turning left, right to go to Baltimore, you would go straight to on the York sub. I think it was 12 or 13 miles into York, into Lincoln Yard.
And what was the speed limit on most of the trains you ran? Like 25?
It was 30 to Baltimore. It was there was 55 on the west sub as far as Big Pool, and then 50 on the B&O. And there was 50 on the Western Maryland as far as Lurgan, and 40 on the Old Reading to Harrisburg.
And like you said, you never. Well, okay. Let me rephrase my question. What was it like running NNW Power on the Western Maryland? They run about as good as any other EMD?
Oh
or-
yeah.
Now, and I know that NNW is famous for their high hoods. Did that hinder your visibility at all, or?
Oh, well, somewhat, but we had Beano Jeep 9s that were long hood forward, so it was nothing out of the ordinary, let's say.
Did you ever run long hunt forward on the Western Maryland?
Oh yeah, many times.
And how difficult was that as compared to driving normally?
Well, you just you knew the railroad, so you knew what was coming, but you just didn't quite have as much vision close up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing you never ran any of the NW Alcos neither.
No.
Now, what about the Reading? I know Western Maryland and Reading were very close friends.
Well, it was all Conrail till I took over running, but I had everything except the Lehigh and Hudson River. I had pretty much everything that went into Conrail, both EMD and GE for all the roads.
Now, what was it like running a GE as compared to Western Maryland's EMDs or any other EMD for that matter?
Like I said before, they just loaded a little different. Where when you would grab a throttle position on the EMD, you had instantaneous. If it was working right, you had instantaneous response. Where with a GE, you grab a throttle position, and it just, I guess, I was spoiled by EMDs. It just seemed to me like it took longer to load up to where I wanted it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of something else here. I apologize.
Oh.
Why don't you ask him about when he used to take the train to Hancock and drop it off?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
What was that like? Taking the train to Hancock, drop the cruise?
Well, I guess I want to say maybe age 3, age 4, somewhere around there. The railroad trainmen and engineers had been working without a contract. We were working under the guidelines of the old contract.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if Chelsea wanted to force the issue to have us strike or just what their ideas was, but they made a little school for management west of Hancock where they would have 2 GP40-2s, about 15 loads of something, and they would supposedly learn how to handle trains on that isolated piece of track. So on Sunday evening, you would be called out of Hagerstown with take 2 units up there and time down, and taxi back to Hagerstown, and they would play all week. And then on Friday evening, we would taxi up, get the 2 engines, and bring it back to Hagerstown.
Okay. Now, here's something else I've been wondering. Why, when you were in that engine, how in the world did you eat? So would you just pack a lunch and go?
Yeah. Pretty much eat on the go.
Now, did you ever work any overnight trains?
Oh, I think I worked more at night than I did daylight.
How'd you stay awake?
You just stay away.
Yes, stay awake.
Yeah, and you had to be rested to be called for duty, so you had to prepare yourself that way. I had an old guy teach me one. I think I was first transferred to engine service, and I was running up the mountain one night, and we got to talking about sleeping, getting sleepy,
Uh huh.
and he said, what has always worked for me was you take your key, switch keys and everything,
Uh huh.
and hold on to them. And if you got sleepy or fell asleep, your hand would relax. You would drop the keys on the floor, and the noise would wake you up.
That's actually kind of smart.
Yeah. So
I never would have thought of that.
that was a trick that I put in the memory banks and used it a few times.
Wow. And now, train orders.
Uh-huh.
How would you get your train orders? I'm guessing, obviously they were typed it via typewriter and they were handed to you once you got to your yard.
Mhm.
Now, did you ever receive orders on the fly?
Oh yeah, many times.
So now, how is that done?
They usually had a train order delivery stand or just a hoop. They had the orders tied in a string
Uh huh.
with a Y stick and a handle, and the operator would hold the orders up, and you would go by on the fly and scoop them with your hand.
Uh huh. And how many times did you ever miss them?
Never,
Never.
never,
Not even on your first try.
never.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure you probably knew some guys who missed a couple.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
you gave them hell.
And I would say that there were a few times that I come close to missing them, but I never miss them.
Wow, you must have had a good eye.
Now, it's between the coordination of the engineer and the operator handing them up, or if it's on a fixed delivery stand, it's all the engineers to do.
Uh huh. And so, okay, so let's say that somebody you knew, like the conductor, missed the instructions handed him by the operator. What happened then? Do you have to go back and get him, or what?
If the orders were on the head end, Western Maryland conductors mostly rode ahead end, so we were good in that respect. I don't know about anybody missing them on the rear. I never had to stop, but if they were missed on the head end, I would imagine you would have to stop because you didn't have authority to either run on a piece of railroad or a work authority or something like that.
So then I'm guessing you would have had to stop at the next signal and wait for the
Oh,
instructions.
You would have to stop as soon as you missed the orders, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody would have to walk back. And if I had missed the orders myself, I wouldn't ask anybody else to walk back. I would go do it myself because I'd be stupid for missing them.
And I'm sure you'd be kicking yourself the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Tell him about that time that guy didn't like you, Frank. Remember that? And he told you to bail off the brakes at Brandon.
When they started running really big coal trains to Harrisburg with our helper, they would usually put 5 units on the point. And I would say, around 180 loads plus.
oh wow.
Yeah, and you can do it, but you have to realize that the tensile strength on the first knuckle between the first load and the last engine is only 125 tons.
Okay.
And so you have to be very careful on how you handle the train. So the first one that I got, the road foreman rode along, and at that time, he wasn't a very good road foreman, but that's a story for another time. We were coming in. Well, first off, when I reported for work, he met me in the train room and he said, "You're getting a big one today." I said, "Yeah, no problem." He said, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna start earlier for what I normally do and take longer." Like for example, I would start earlier on braking and slowing down and take longer if the situation warranted a running release. But at that time, with all the different kinds of brakes that we had on the coal cars, you couldn't use enough air to have a good clean release. So my thing was to come down into Brandon, and we only had 10 mile an hour to Chambersburg. So normally you would come down in there and take your air and release it, and while it was releasing and running the dynamic, you would get down to 10 mile an hour and go through Chambersburg and have no problems. But with a coal train that long, you couldn't get a good clean release because you didn't have to use the amount of air as you could get a clean release with. So my idea was to go down to Brandon, to stop, to make a full service reduction, and then make a clean release, and then just have a train show me out of there and down through Chambersburg. Well, coming into Brandon, the road foreman said, "What are you going to do?" I told him. He said, "No, I want you to release your air." I said, "No." I said, I can't get a clean release. He said, "I'm telling you to release the air." And I said, "Well, that's your right to tell me that. It's my right, and you're paying me to use my intelligence and instruction and knowledge to handle this train." I said, "And I feel as though it's not a good thing to do." He said, "Well, I'm telling you to release it." And I got out of the seat and I said, "If you want it released, you sit here and you do it." And he said, "I'm telling you right now to do it." So the conductor was riding on the lead with me. I looked at him and I said, "Are you ready to make him carry iron?" And the conductor just threw his hands up. I released it. I had the 5 engines in full dynamic. I was cheating with a little bit of independent brake, and about 30 seconds later, pow, the air went down. The rear end was still had brakes on. The head end was released, and we got a knuckle, I think 13 deep.
Oh my goodness.
And I looked at the conductor and I said, "You're going to make him carry it?" And the road foreman looked at me and said, "Well, the computers say you should be able to do that." And I told him, I said, "Everything is perfect with the computer." I said, "But not so out here."
Yeah, expectations versus reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, this road foreman, was he a Beano guy or?
He was an ex-Cino guy.
That should tell you everything you need to know there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there were some good Cino people in management that I met. This particular individual, just I don't know how he got the position, but they sent him to Hagerstown, and we kind of lost horns from day one. So.
So, do you ever have a rocky relationship with Beano Cino guys?
Not particularly. No.
Because, like you said, you just try to get along with people.
Mhm.
But I'm sure there were cases where they just rubbed you raw, and you're like, "Arr."
Yeah. There were times when things would arise that was kind of against the way I was taught, but the conductor is in charge of training, so you do what he says.
Now, did you ever ride any of the Western Maryland True GP40s, not the Dash 2s?
Oh yeah, many times.
So, obviously, I'm not sure if people know this or not, but the difference between a standard Jeep 40 and a 40-2 is that the 40-2 is a sight glass and better wiring. Can you attest to that?
It has a different electronics in, particularly with the reverser and the dynamic. With things before Dash 2s, they had air contactors, and Dash 2 and beyond, they had electric motors turning the contactor drums.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's more than just better wiring and sight glass.
Yeah.
Well, see, I guess I must have misheard someone then. I'm not sure where I heard that from, but wow, I never knew that before. All right, well, Frank, I appreciate you letting me take the
Sure.
opportunity to
If you have
sit down
any,
and talk with you.
if you think of any other questions, you know where to live.
Yes, sir. All right, well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
letting me talk to you, and I guess we'll maybe talk again sometime.
I would think so.
I would hope so. Western Maryland guys can't be kept too far apart,
No, and there's not many of us left.
and that's why I'm exactly doing this,
Mhm.
because I want to get your story and everyone else's story before it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't think something like this has been done before, so that's
Okay.
the other reason I'm doing this.
Cool.
All right, well, thank you again, and
Sure.
well, I guess we'll see you next time, huh?
Okay.